Hey guys, I'm Chris, and this is just a quick intro for a collab that I got to do with Cris over at Hurtastic Reviews. We had a lot of fun talking about our favorite movies from the 2000s that are underlooked and don't really get a lot of the spotlight, so this is just a quick intro for that. The rest of this video is going to be in Skype format, and I don't know if there's an outro or not, so hope you guys enjoy, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. And definitely check out Chris's channel, Hurtastic Reviews. The link will be in the description below, and hope you guys enjoy.
Hi everyone, this is Chris from Hurtastic Reviews. You probably think this video looks really weird, probably weirder than most of my others, which it's hard to fault on that, but the reason for it today is I am talking to one of my favorite subscribers. I don't want to say the favorite because I know Nathan Jones will get very offended, but one of my favorite and probably one of my first followers. I have host of Film Stocked, Cris Bowie. Chris,
Yep.
Say hi to everyone.
Hey everyone, I'm Chris from Film Stocked, or at least one half of Film Stocked, and we've got a pretty exciting video today.
Yeah, so you have a YouTube channel, Film Stock. So tell everyone who, surprisingly, if they haven't checked your channel out, like, what do you do there?
Yeah, so me and my friend Andy, we're friends from high school. We go back, and basically we review movies. I do monthly Blu-ray hauls. We have TV reviews, rankings. We've got it all, and it's a lot of fun for us, so you should definitely check it out.
Yes, like, their channel is like really, it's like, think of my channel and it's how it's juvenile. Well, they're like the more serious version of it. Like they actually know what they're talking about and they're not rambling like I do. But onto the main thing. Chris and I are here today because Chris, we're about the same age. I might be a little older, probably a little less successful, but we grew up watching films, I would say, in the 2000s, or maybe a little earlier than that, but I'd say the 2000s were like the time of like our foundation. Would you say?
I would definitely agree with that. Grew up watching all those movies.
Yeah. So today we're here to talk about our top 5 favorite movies of the 2000s that we feel like don't get talked about or appreciated enough, whether it's in the online community or like, articles when they do rankings and stuff. So we're here today to just talk about some of our favorite highlighted movies that we think need some more love. And if you like this video and you like some of the movies that we've talked about, please comment down below. Let us know some of your favorites from the 2000s as well. We'll be interested to see that. It's a long, weird decade full of baggy pants and, the fashion style was music. Weird. Yeah, new metal and Limp Bizkit, I think, was on there. He directed a movie, by the way. But yeah, we're just here to talk about 2000s movies. So like, get your monsters and like your, what is it? What were those shoes? Those Osiris skater shoes, and just get nostalgic. Heelys, yeah, get that going. So Chris, we have a few honorable mentions. So we both have 3, I believe, correct?
Yes, we do. I can go ahead and give one of mine.
Please do.
So an honorable mention for me is going to be Ocean's 11. Now, this movie came out in 2001, and it's just got such a star-studded cast, and it's such a fun movie. I grew up watching this, whether it was on TV or with my parents, and I really enjoyed this one.
Dude, that's such a good one. I forgot about the Ocean series. I started late because I remember seeing that movies for Ocean 13, the trailer, and it had Al Pacino. And I'm like, oh, cool, yeah. Al Pacino, I love him. So my dad was like, oh, there's other movies before that. So I ended up just binge watching through all of them. And then I saw Andy Garcia was in that. I'm like, I like him too. So, man, really good. That's a good honorable mention. My first honorable mention, I'm going to say, is the 2007 film. It stars Anton Yelchin, called Charlie Bartlett. It stars Robert Downey Jr. and Kat Dennings as well. And basically, I liked it because I like Anton. And, rest in peace to him, gone too soon. But I really like that movie because it is funny, it has some good drama, and the acting is just superb. And Anton just plays a high school rich kid who gets kicked out of schools and ends up in one school being basically the school's therapist who prescribes pills to people, and Robert Downey Jr. is trying to bust them. So Charlie Bartlett, I think it's streaming on Prime right now, so you should check it out if you haven't.
I'll have to add that one to the list because I have not seen it.
Yeah.
But I like the cast.
Yeah,
so my next honorable mention is a cult classic, if you want to call it that, but I think this movie should have gotten more love from the Academy, honestly, and that's Donnie Darko. This movie came out in 2001. Huge fan of it.
Dude, Donnie Darko. You're talking about the deep cut films I completely forgot about. That movie's still kind of chilling, isn't it? With the rabbit.
Yeah, it definitely is. And the ending, like, it plays, what's that song? It's like, all around me are familiar faces. Yeah, something about it gives me chills. And Jake Gyllenhaal is so great in that movie. That movie's actually hilarious. There's a scene in the auditorium where he, like, goes off on Patrick Swayze. Yeah, Swayze's in that movie. But it's a great one.
He's like the creepiest school official, I swear. Ugh, just really chilling. So that's a good one. Just don't talk about the sequel, right?
Right. What's it called? Like
S Darko.
S Darko. Yeah. My roommate and I used to make fun of that.
I think people still do. My next honorable mention is a 2005 film starring Viggo Mortensen. It's David Cronenberg's A History of Violence. I saw this movie probably a lot younger than I probably should have because it had Viggo Mortensen, and I'm like, I love Aragorn and Lord of the Rings. So I was like, I should check this movie out. And I did, and it is very graphic, violent-wise, and a lot of sex in it as well. You get a lot of shots of Viggo Mortensen's butt, which is kind of cool. But he's basically a restaurant owner who, like, gets caught up in a robbery at his restaurant, and he kills these robbers, and he's like, what the heck, like, how did I do that? And then Ed Harris is like investigating him because he thinks he's like an old mob boss, like a sleeper agent, and is basically like a dark crime thriller. Yeah, really good movie. I think you should check it out. I have it with a double pack here with the History of Violence double pack. I highly recommend getting this one so you can watch both of them because they're good movies. So that's my second honorable mention.
I think I've seen like the opening scene from that movie. It might be in like a restaurant or something at a restaurant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
It's great. I need to check out the rest of it. But my last honorable mention here is it's a criminally underrated movie. I don't know why people claim that they hate it. It's also a Disney movie, and that is National Treasure. I adore this. I adore National Treasure. I don't know why people hate on it. It's just so much fun. A movie about Nick Cage stealing the Declaration of Independence, and they go on a treasure hunt, and it's just so much fun. I love it.
You know, if Daniel from Cobwebs was here, he would be like bowing down to you. I don't know if you've been following him or if anybody's watching and listening has been following him. He's been binging on his Letterboxd the Nick Cage filmography, and he's not doing it like as a joke. He's dead on, like, in love with Cage and like his filmography. And he was talking about National Treasure, and I've actually never seen it, so I find that very interesting that he's in a Disney movie after all he's done. You know,
and the sequel's good too, so you should check it out.
I wasn't aware there was a sequel till a couple weeks ago, so I will have to double feature them. All right, those are actually really good honorable mentions. Like, those could easily be like fit into a top 5, but sadly there's not enough room on this channel and on yours probably either.
Yep.
So my last one is the 2000 film Pitch Black starring Vin Diesel. Now everyone's gonna think like, what the, you know, is that the Riddick movie? I'm like, yeah, it's like the first one before you get the Dark Fury animated film, and then you get finally Chronicles of Riddick, and then Riddick. But I love Pitch Black because I saw it at a very young age, and I already had seen Alien and loved Alien, obviously. So Pitch Black is kind of like the cheaper, more violent version of like Alien and Aliens, and the CGI is very much of the time, and it doesn't look great, but it has, I think his name's Keith David from the Halo series. If you play video games, you'll know his voice. But yeah, it's kind of cool. I like the aliens, even though they look bad in the CGI. I like their design. I like the concept of like being on a planet with different people and having like an all-night system and an all-day system, and like the horrors are in the dark, and Vin Diesel's cool. So it's pre-Fast and Furious Vin Diesel, I believe, too. So that's my honorable mention. That was all 3 of ours. So now we can get to the deep cuts of our top 5.
So my first of my 5 movies is from 2001, and that is Training Day. And I absolutely love this movie. I think it's Denzel Washington's best performance, actually, and Ethan Hawke is great too. Yeah, I do. He won the Oscar, rightfully so.
He did.
I know there's some controversy around that, but this movie's great. It's in LA, and Denzel's kind of a bad cop, and he has the rookie cop Ethan Hawke under his wing, and they go on this little adventure through Los Angeles, and you kind of see the dark criminal underworld of it. And I just think it's a great action movie that I had not seen until recently, but I've watched it 3 or 4 times, and I really like it.
Dang, 3 or 4 times? That's crazy.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of it.
Yeah, I've only seen it once, and I very obscurely remember it. I just always remember that scene with Denzel going, you're like, huh, okay, you know, like calling out everyone. My number 5 is a Robert Rodriguez film. I don't know if you're aware of his filmography, but I love him and his collabs and his friendship with Quentin Tarantino. But night number 5 is Once Upon a Time in Mexico from 2003. So it's weird that it's like the last film of like a trilogy. But it's part of the El Mariachi trilogy that started in the 90s. So it started with El Mariachi, and then after that was the very successful and popular Desperado. And it had Salma Hayek and Antonio Banderas. That's the first time Antonio Banderas is portrayed as the man with the guitar, because that's El Mariachi. And then in Once Upon a Time in Mexico is when it's like basically the final blow up of what's been building. And it has Antonio Banderas, Salma Hayek, Willem Dafoe, Johnny Depp, and just a few other like real popular Hispanic actors. And it's just really insanely violent. I like just like the movie itself. I think it's a movie that when you think of Antonio Banderas, people forget about because it's the third movie of a trilogy. Really solid flick. I think everyone should check it out. It's pretty interesting to see Willem Dafoe portray a Hispanic man too, even though he's not Hispanic.
I'll go ahead and give my number 4. And the reason I'm talking about this movie is because I don't think it gets enough credit as being one of the director's best, and that is 2006's The Prestige. This is not usually one of the top Nolan films when I see a lot of online lists, and it's arguably his best movie. I'm serious. Like, Christian Bale plays a magician, and so does Hugh Jackman, and they're competing. And Scarlett Johansson is a love interest, and she kind of gets in the way of both of them. You've got Michael Caine. He's in most of Christopher Nolan's movies, but he gives a nice supporting performance in this one. And it's so clever. One of the best scripts I've ever seen, and it's got a lot of twists and turns you don't see coming. And the opening shot is amazing. The final shot is amazing. And if you haven't seen this movie, you should definitely check it out because it doesn't get enough love as being one of Christopher Nolan's best.
That's true. But you know what's really funny about that movie, at least when I talk to people, that's like their favorite Nolan movie. Like even besides like Dark Knight, people are like, I love The Prestige. And I think it's because it's such an easy watch film.
Like, yeah, it's not one of his longer movies. I think it's like 2 hours and 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's a really, really, like you said, it is a really well-written film. But I think it's easy access for people into like, when people say Nolan filmography, they kind of think like, you know, I haven't seen Inception, but like they think like the high conceptness of that and like Interstellar and stuff like that. But The Prestige, like I talked to a lot of people, and like, oh, that movie's like one of the best. And it probably is because the cast is really sweet too.
Yeah, that's interesting because I think when most people think Nolan, they're like Inception and Dark Knight are the top 2, and then there's a lot of people who love Interstellar, a lot of people who love Batman Begins and The Dark Knight Rises. So I feel like it just gets lost in those titles sometimes.
My number 4 is a 2009 slasher film called, if I have it here, The Collector. It has a little glare. I feel like everyone saw this cover growing up or when it was coming out and just like passed up on it, including myself.
Yeah, I was about to say, I've seen that poster like 5 times somewhere.
Yeah. So I stumbled upon this movie with my buddy Daniel, who's been on this channel, and he's been on my podcast, and he does Cobwebs, which you should really check out. But one weekend I went up to go see him, and we watched this as part of like 4 or 5 different movies we watched that weekend. And it's actually really, 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 really good. It's by the guys like who wrote like Saw, you know, like I feel like a trailer is saying like by the guys, but like no, like the people who did Saw did this as well, and it's very evident because it is really grotesque and it has like a lot of like really squirmy depictions of violence, but the concept is so cool. So like this guy who like he's basically like a construction worker. He needs to like pay off these loan sharks basically for like his baby mama, because I think that's literally what it is his baby mama. And he decides to rob the people he's doing construction for while they're gone. But what he doesn't realize is there's somebody in the house who is taking them hostage and is torturing them, and has set up elaborate traps throughout the house that will like cause pain and inflict wounds on you. And he like is an ex-con, so he's like used to going and breaking into houses. Once he realizes it's a game inside the house of the collector trying to seek him out, while him trying to save the family and steal the money at the same time, with all these insane booby traps as well in it. It is insane.
My number 3 is actually a Best Picture winner, but I have my reasons for why I'm mentioning it. Okay. And that is The Departed from 2006. And similar to how I talked about The Prestige, I know a lot of people love this movie. It's my favorite Scorsese movie, but I just feel like
that's a hot. My seat's on fire. I'm like, woo!
It is amazing. 10 out of 10. But
Woo!
I feel like when people talk about Scorsese, it's always one of his mob movies like Goodfellas, Casino, Taxi Driver, which I love Taxi Driver. But I think The Departed should get more credit for being arguably his best movie. I think it is. I love it. You got Jack Nicholson, Matt Damon, Mark Wahlberg, and Leo. And I think all four of them could have been nominated for supporting. I wish Leo won for supporting actor, but he was already nominated for Blood Diamond and Lead that year. But essentially, it's about a rat in the police system. And then there's also like a undercover cop and all this stuff. It's a very interesting movie. I know that apparently it took a lot from Infernal Affairs, a foreign film I have not seen, but I love this movie, and if you haven't seen it, which you probably have, you should check it out.
Oh, dude, The Departed. That's one of those films where it's like, oh, damn it, because it's like a film by a director I absolutely love. Like, I love Scorsese, but I've tried to watch that movie so many different times, and like I get halfway through, and I'm not saying because it's bad. And the problem's me. No, I can't. The problem's me. I don't know why, but it's like when I watch it, I'm like, this is technically good. It's like The Wolf of Wall Street, where it's like, I know this movie's really good, but it's not a Scorsese I'll put on often and like be entertained with, even though it's really well made, if that makes sense. Yeah. I don't know. I love my 90s Scorsese, you know, with Casino, Goodfellas, Cape Fear, and also 70s, of course, with Taxi Driver, like you said. But man, The Departed, that's the only one he won, one of his only films where he won Best Director.
Correct. And still, I think it's underrated for some reason.
No, I would say it is underrated. Yeah. Even though it's like, besides Goodfellas, people would probably say The Departed is like their favorite besides that, because it is like one of his more recent before, you know, The Irishman and Silence. My number 3, I think it is critically acclaimed. I don't know. It just brings up a lot of nostalgia for me, and I don't know. If you've been checking out my Letterboxd, I've been watching all the Godzilla films because I got the Criterion, you know, Spine 1000. So I've been trying to binge through watching all of those, and it really stemmed from my love for this monster, which is 2005 by Peter Jackson, King Kong, which I have right here. This really cool cover too. I like showing off the movies because it looks better in front of me than my actual face.
I should have done that. I like doing that too.
But no, dude, this movie, King Kong, I saw it in theaters at like the cheap. I don't know if you had these growing up, but it was like the cheap theater for like $5. You could watch the movie before it left theaters. And my dad and I went to go see it, and it was the winter time with our winter coats and a packed theater, and it's 3.5 hours long almost. But it didn't bother me as a kid, and I got it that Christmas on a DVD. And Saturday of showing, I like my own Saturday matinees. It like if cousins were spending the night or friends were coming over or just myself waking up early, I would play Star Wars Battlefront 2 and I would watch King Kong. That's what I would do. That's, you know, little Final Fantasy.
Battlefront 2 is a great video game.
Yes, and yes, it is. So on PS2, and then after that, I would just put in King Kong, and that's my Saturday. Agent Brody, Jack Black. Oh my God, it has Tom Hanks' son on there as well. And Naomi Watts, and he plays Smeagol. Why can't I think of him right now? Andy Serkis. Yeah, Andy Serkis plays Lumpy, the best name for a boat chef. So, also, I love the movie because it scares me still to this day. Like when everyone falls underneath in the Skull Island, and the insects are giant and they're like swallowing everyone, and it's just really gross and scary because I don't like bugs. And to see him like is like bigger than human size devouring these people is really terrifying. Also, when King Kong is fighting the the T-Rexes, and he like rips their jaws and like bites their tongue. Just so good. King Kong from Peter Jackson is like one of those movies I think everyone needs to see and like love, because even though it's long, it's still worth it, I think. I mean, sure, people are like, oh, like it's so long on Skull Island, and then like it takes forever to get to New York. But like even the New York stuff is really good, and I think it's one of Jack Black's best performances, I think too. So I'm gushing right now, but yeah, 2005 King Kong.
My number 2 is a forgotten movie because the sequels got worse and worse, especially in recent years, and that is the original Pirates of the Caribbean: The Curse of the Black Pearl from 2003. This is like one of the movies of my childhood. Like I watched this all the time. I would go to Disney World and I would ride Pirates of the Caribbean. I had one of those swords. I even had a Jack Sparrow hat. It is such a fun movie. I love it so much. Johnny Depp got an Oscar nom for playing Captain Jack Sparrow in that first Pirates movie.
He He did? Oh my gosh.
He did. Yes, you can look that up if you want to fact check me.
Oh no, I trust you. I wish he won, maybe, depending on who the winner was. I wish he won because that's such an iconic role.
It really is, and it's unfortunate. I like the first 3 Pirates movies. 4 is not my favorite, and 5 is almost atrocious. Like 5 is bad.
I didn't see 5. I remember seeing On Stranger Tides in theaters, just like to give it that last hurrah. Mm-hmm. And I was like, man, it's just, that's like when I even at World's End, I still enjoy.
Yeah, it's just sad that like Johnny Depp kind of, the way he played the character as years went on, it got so far fetched. I couldn't connect with it, and I just don't like 4 and 5. 3 is okay, like 3 just, but 1 iconic movie of my childhood that I love, and you probably know the story. So
my number 2, I don't know if you've seen it. I've seen this movie too many damn times, but I always want to talk about it because I think everyone should watch it. And then if you have a negative opinion, don't tell me about it because I don't care. But that is Little Miss Sunshine.
I've seen movie, it.
You have seen it.
All right. First I've seen on your list.
So it came out 2006. And it stars Greg Kinnear. We all love Greg Kinnear. Steve Carell in like one of his serious roles before, the comedy stuff. Toni Collette, pre-Hereditary. Abigail Breslin, I don't know what's happened to her career, but this was like at the height of her time, I feel like. Alan Arkin before Argo, and Paul Dano right before, or was it the same time as There Will Be Blood? I can't remember.
It was a year before, I think.
It was a year. Yeah, it was probably the year before. But yeah, I really love this movie. I watched it a lot. Same time, like growing up, watching, the Pirates movie and stuff, because we owned it on DVD for whatever reason, even though I don't think it was appropriate for someone at my age. But Little Bit Sunshine I just really love because Steve Carell has depression. He's tried killing himself. He's a closet homosexual, and then he kind of comes out that he is. And his family, he's like staying with his sister. They're ending up having to go on a road trip to California for Abigail Breslin. That's what the movie's trying to comment on, is like exposing these little girls like that. And it's just basically about a dysfunctional family trying to come together and be functional in some way. And I really resonate with that. It has a lot of iconic scenes, I feel like the bus pushing scene, Greg Kinnear just trying to provide for his family. Alan Arkin just being vulgar as hell. But, I really, really love this movie, and I think a lot of people should check it out if they haven't. What's your number 1? What is Cris from Film Stock's number 1 underrated film of the 2000s? One he thinks everyone should check out.
Everyone needs to see this movie if you have not. It is criminally underrated for some reason. I don't know why. I think it has like a 43 on Metacritic, which is insane to me. And I've seen this movie at least 20 times. I'm not lying. Probably more. Grew up watching it. I'm giving a lot of background here.
Please do.
It's my favorite sports movie of all time. Came out in 2000. Remember the Titans.
Wow.
I absolutely love this movie. I remember my family sat down and watched it when I was like 4 or 5. We rented it at Blockbuster, and we watched it as a family, and I watched it again and again. We just kept renting it, and then I bought the DVD. I love this movie. Remember the Titans. It's a fantastic sports movie. Denzel Washington gives an underrated performance, but the story itself, it's really heartwarming. It's at T.C. Williams High School in Virginia, and it's during like segregation in the 60s and 70s, I believe. So the story basically just shows like African Americans and white football players coming together on the team and really becoming brothers. And the relationship between Gary Bertier and Julius, it's heartwarming. And that there's a scene that it brings me to tears every time. It's so powerful. But Coach Boone, great. Coach Yost is awesome. The actor, I can't think of his name, but he's in like Armageddon, and he's in the new Halloween movie. He plays him, but it's a really great movie, and I can watch it anytime. I always have a smile on my face at the end, and my heart's warmed.
Yeah, I forgot that movie came out in the 2000s. I thought it was like a late 90s movie.
Yeah, barely made the cut. It came out in 2000.
Woo, yeah, that you could double feature that with Pitch Black. There you go. No, that's a really solid top 5 right there, Cris. Like, yeah, you brought up some movies I've definitely like.
Yeah, they're like mainstream, but like somewhat forgotten. So.
Yeah, I think that's why I like the 2000s. Just so many different types of movies were coming out at the time. But like, even though I absolutely love the Lord of the Rings trilogy, it's perfect to me. And like, a lot of popular movies. Yeah, The Dark Knight, Iron Man, and like the X-Men trilogy, which I feel like everyone should know and love, and including the Spider-Man trilogy.
I was gonna say Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy too.
Yeah, I think some of these movies get lost in the cracks. So, my last movie is a movie for some reason I'm always been attached to, like in terms of like making bad decisions. So like I watched this movie like for no reason on TV, and then I watched it another time in community college when I had to write a paper for my final and started the night of. And then I saw that this movie was on Netflix, and I just watched it first before typing the paper for whatever reason. But that is the 2003 film Cold Mountain. So Cold Mountain stars Nicole Kidman, Renee Zellweger, who won Best Supporting Actress, who recently also won for Judy for Best Actress, which probably she shouldn't have won, in my opinion. And Jude Law. It also has Philip Seymour Hoffman in it as well, and a very young Charlie Hunnam, who actually terrified me. It has Brandon Gleeson as well, Don Gleason's dad, and Jack White from the White Stripes in it. It's just really big cast, and it takes place. And the director, people might not recognize the director, but his previous works was The Talented Mr. Ripley with Matt Damon, which I feel like a lot of people really like. I know Daniel's mentioned it and recommended it to me before, but this is the same director. And it takes place during the Civil War, and basically Jude Law and Nicole Kidman are Southerners, and he's gone to fight for the Confederacy, and they're in love, and she doesn't want to see him go, but he does, and it basically chronicles their love from him potentially dying and him trying to come back to their little town. But she is stuck there with Renee Zellweger now, as she's like a caretaker, but like the local the local protection unit with not Brandon Gleeson, but with Charlie Hunnam and like a few other people, they're like taking advantage of everyone and like their food supply and like killing people who they deem they don't like as deserters, which is very gross and scary in some points. And one of them loves Nicole Kidman, and yeah, it's Jude Law eventually comes back and has to, deal with this whole mess of a situation. It's pretty long. It's like almost 3 hours, I think, but there's some really great stuff in it, and it's really sad at times. And Philip Seymour Hoffman plays like a preacher, and he's pretty good for the small scenes he's in. I just really love the movie, and I don't feel like it just gets talked about enough. It was nominated for Best Picture, I believe, but I think Zellweger was the only thing that won out of it. But Cold Mountain, I think everyone needs to check. Yeah, I got 7 nominations for crying out loud. That's what it was. Damn it.
It's crazy. I've even heard of that movie. I don't know how.
Yeah, 2003, I mean, I guess that was when The Return of the King, I think, came out. So
yeah.
And Master and Commander. But yeah, Cold Mountain. I think everyone needs to check this movie out. Like, it's so good. I might actually watch it. I'm off the next few days. After I'm done with this, I'm just gonna watch it.